So if I'm going to talk about who's most qualified, whether it's James Harden, Giannis, or LeBron James to be in that MVP conversation, then I will first start by saying who is disqualified. Whether it's Pee Wee and the YMCA, you know this in sports. No quitting allowed. James Harden, he broke the first rule of sports by quitting on his team, the Houston Rockets. I'm from Texas, so I took that a little more personally than most. But James Harden, to me, is disqualified from even being in the conversation, even being in the race, even being in the chase for MVP. So then I got to talk about my guy, the king, LeBron James. Now, here's the problem. You can't afford to miss games in an already shortened season and still be trying to vie for MVP. Not if the other candidates haven't missed any games, particularly due to injury. So LeBron James, albeit when he is there, he is great. Albeit when he is there, his statistics are out of this world, and he makes everyone around him better. But if it's a conversation of qualifications, LeBron James is also thus disqualified as it pertains to Harden and LeBron and Giannis. So the last man standing is really Giannis. Because the only thing disqualifying Giannis is what? He already won back-to-back MVPs, and there's some sort of unwritten rule that you can't win 3 times in a row because the last person to win 3 times in a row is Larry Bird. No, MVP is focused on one season, the present season. And Giannis, in the present season, he has nothing disqualifying him from being an MVP candidate. So when I look at it, Giannis is the most qualified to being the conversation and being in the race and in being in the chase for MVP. Now, Joy is back with us, but she wasn't enough. So I had to bring in my guy, Slick Ric the Bucher. Slick, so good to see you. Slick,
I actually think Joy is enough, but I'm glad to be here.
You are first, Slick. Who is the most qualified MVP candidate? James Harden, LeBron, or Giannis?
I am not mad at you, Acho, for making a case for Giannis, knowing in particular that it couldn't have been easy for you to disqualify LeBron.
It hurt my heart. Slick. It hurt my heart. I stayed up all night.
Yeah,
I stayed up all night. True story.
I understand. I appreciate it. But the truth is that under the current timeline, he's probably going to play or miss 1/3 of the season, and that simply takes him out of the equation. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm not holding it against him that he's won the last 2 years. I did not vote for him first on my ballot either of the last 2 years. I actually would consider him for the top of my ballot this year because I think he's, well, regardless of what the numbers might say or the record for the Milwaukee Bucks might say, I believe that he's playing a better all-around game. He has been more aggressive when he needs to be. He's being more assertive, and he's had the intangible of being a positive. I say all that, though, in believing that James Harden is the most qualified because he had the most difficult situation. Giannis is playing with the same team that he's played with for the last couple of years. Harden is in a brand new situation, not only went to a new team, but went to that new team after the season had started with sky-high expectations and a team that was essentially built for 2 other guys who, one in the case of Kevin Durant, has missed the majority of this season. And yet James Harden, as you said, leading the league in assists, far more diversified offensive game, is making the most of the pieces around him and has the team with the best record among these 3. So if we're asking who is the most qualified, simply what James has done on the court and what it has produced for the Brooklyn Nets, I almost said New Jersey Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, puts him at the top of that. I put Giannis right there, but I put him a close second.
Slick, I wish you would have said the New Jersey Nets because that's not the only slip-up you had in logic. Slick, you can't say that James Harden went through the toughest situation and the most adversity. A wise man once said, Slick, don't lean up against a wall and then complain about your back being up against a wall. That's what James Harden
wise
did, big
Marcellus
dog.
Wiley?
Yeah, Marcellus. He's a wise man, but I can't give him too many props on this show. Slick, that's what you did. James Harden put himself in a situation. Then he demanded a trade, albeit by action and then by inaction, literally. Demanded a trade, and now you're going to give kudos to the person who put himself through the chaos for the chaos?
Okay. So, first of all, he didn't put himself in that position. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, by getting rid of Mike D'Antoni and Daryl Morey as the GM, put James Harden in a situation that he found untenable. But I knew based on our previous conversations that you were going to come up with this argument. And so I thought it might be important to take a closer look at those 8 games that he played with the Houston Rockets at the beginning of the season. And maybe we should compare them to, let's say 2017 and 18, when he was the league MVP. Can we take a look at those numbers? Can we take a look at those overall numbers, the first 8 games of the 2017-18 season and 2020? Well, look at that. How about that? Comparable, one might even argue better this year, because you are completely dismissing the fact that he came out of the gate balling and then had an ankle injury, was obviously disappointed that they weren't showing any aggression and getting him elsewhere, and the performance dipped a bit. But comparison to what he did in 2017 and 18, you can't disqualify him because of the numbers in Houston. If you want to make a case for Giannis, if you want to make a case for somebody else as being better overall than James Harden as a MVP candidate, have at it, my friend. But if you are going to try to make a case that James Harden does not deserve it because of what he did not do in Houston in those first 8 games, that simply does not hold up based on the fact that it did not prevent him from winning the MVP previously.
Okay, Slick. There's a quote, comparison is the thief of all joy. I don't think it's what they meant, but your comparison just stole my joy here. Anyway, Joy, I have to bring in you now. Who is the most qualified to be in the MVP conversation between LeBron James, James Harden, and Giannis?
Is this the segment, Tell Me I'm Wrong? Or that was a few segments ago? Okay, well, you're wrong. You're wrong. Now, look, Giannis is having a great season, but he's had a great season the entire time he's been in the league. Like, he's a great player. So, yes, he got the MVP last 2 years. He's not going to win a third. Let's be honest about what the MVP has become in the NBA. It is a narrative award. It's a narrative award. He's not going to win 3 in a row. He's never won an NBA championship. I mean, LeBron James can't even win an MVP in seasons that he's available. So there's no way that that's happening. Giannis is not winning 3 MVPs in a row. Whether he's the most qualified to or not, it just doesn't matter. That's not going to happen. Now, Rick, everything that you said is correct. Everything that you said about James Harden at the beginning of the season is correct. It hurts me also. I do agree with Emmanuel. It hurts me also because I don't like how he left the Rockets, but he's made up for it. He's played 24 games without KD. That has to count for something, the way that Brooklyn is playing. Everyone else, Jokic is 5th in the West. You have Dame, they're 6th. They have the best record with Harden. They've been playing amazing. He's playing a brilliant brand of basketball. He's definitely qualified to be the MVP, and I think he should be the MVP.
Okay, Joe, I got to go back to you here because I don't know if you were to pluck any athlete out of a situation they didn't want to be in and then allow them to hand select their perfect destination, they would probably thrive too. If you want to talk Deshaun Watson pre all the drama going on, if you let him leave Houston and go
James
to a
Harden
perfect
or LeBron
situation.
James?
Hey, Slick, I was about to make a killer point. Okay? So the fact of the matter is, I'm mad at your argument, Slick, but I'm not talking to you right now. I'm mad at Joy's argument because you can't just let superstar players waltz into any other organization and then give them credit when they ball. Duh, they gon' ball. They went to the perfect place to ball. Being a great athlete isn't just what you accomplish. It's also about what you overcome. That's what makes the greats great. So, Joy, how do you not hold what James Harden did in Houston to a higher degree of enmity? Like, how are you not more like, you know what, James Harden? You're DQ'd for that.
Didn't we just have a conversation about Carson Wentz? So I don't want to hear any nice things about Carson Wentz from you, Emmanuel, after this season is over and they do a better job than they did last year, because that is exactly what Carson Wentz did. He threw a fit and he found his way out of Philadelphia and is now in Indianapolis. And we just discussed with Darius Butler is a better situation. No, I don't hold that against James Harden anymore. I didn't like it either how he left at the beginning of the season. He wasn't happy. I felt like Houston did up until that point everything that they could do to keep him happy. Some things just come to an end, and he has proven himself not only to be a leader, to be in the MVP conversation. He's overcome not playing with Kevin Durant, who's been injured, who is clearly the leader of this team. He's been brilliant since he's gotten there, and they have the best record. He's been everything that they've asked him to do. He's evolved, and I cannot hold Houston against him anymore. You don't want me to hold
me to hold
Philadelphia against Carson Wentz.
Like I said, Joy Taylor is more than enough, Acho, more than enough to carry this. But, Joy, I can tell that we have him on the ropes because he just went to an argument that if I go into the archives, you were just telling me that LeBron James deserves more MVPs than the 4 that he already has. And yet, if there's anybody in the league who has multiple times, not just once, but multiple times said, you know what? Let me create the ideal situation for me to be successful. Let me handpick the organization. Let me handpick my teammates. Let me handpick every single thing in order to be successful. And that's your guy. And I know you're not considering him an MVP candidate in this situation, but you're suggesting that he hasn't received it enough times, and yet his entire career since the first stretch in Cleveland has been built on manufacturing the ideal situations for his success. How can you argue against James Harden when your boy has lived off of that for the last 10 years?
Yes, y'all got me against the ropes, but y'all remember Muhammad Ali? The old rope-a-dope?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I need to see it.
Now look, Slick. LeBron James never forced his way out of anywhere. He hit free agency, and then he chose while in free agency to leave. Carson Wentz was traded. Yes, he wanted out, but they wanted him up out of there. They said, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the heck up out of Philadelphia. But James Harden, Slick, dude was on the court, but he wasn't hooping. James Harden, Joy, he had shoes on, but he wasn't playing. To me, there is a substantive difference between characters like LeBron James, who enters free agency designed by the NBA to allow you to be free and then choose a destination that you wanted to go to.
Hold on. I don't think we've ever done this in the history of the show. Can you bring the full screen back again? Can we have the full screen back one more time?
Full screen, you're one full screen allowed, Slick.
Did those numbers look like he wasn't balling? I've seen guys fall off. We're talking about 25 points a game, 10 and a half assists, shooting 44%. I mean, those aren't look. It's
we're
not
also talking
off
about
the
8
charts
games.
Numbers.
Slick.
And we're talking about exactly 8 games. Look, I get it. Acho, you don't like the fact that he forced his way out of Houston. I get it. But he was put in the position where they changed everything around him, and I didn't like the way he did it either, but ultimately I don't fault him for having done it, and it's not such an egregious move by him that I'm going to say that everything that he does in Brooklyn is discounted because of not even the 8 games. It was a 5-game stretch after the ankle injury where his numbers fell off. 5 games is going to define whether you're a candidate for MVP or not. Not in my book.
Y'all give me time to get up out the canvas before the 10 count.